JM. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. The MSME Business Roadshow is brought to you by the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Jamaica's Business Ministry, and the Inter-American Development Bank.
But is this real? Hey Greg, come look at this. Oh my, it's happening. Mr. Daniels, the numbers keep getting bigger and bigger.
Sir, the clicks are off the charts.
Hello, sales? What's the emergency? 9,000 clicks in one day? 3,000 order? So how much we have left? What? I soon call you back. Mr. Nakamoto, it's Danny from Jamaica. I need 5,000 of the big ones. We're back in business.
Yes, sir. Arigato. Suene.
Amplify your brand. Let Nationwide 90 FM assist you in tapping into a captivated audience across our social media platforms. For more information, contact us at 876-630-1210 or sales@nationwidenewsnetwork.com. Businesses, companies, and entrepreneurs, let's supercharge your brand.
Big news! The Big Bite Food Safety Show now airs on Nationwide 90 FM with your host, Alison Richards, the Food Safety Girl. Join Alison every Tuesday from 1 to 2 p.m. as she serves up expert advice, tips, and insights on everything food safety. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and remember, food safety is everybody's business. Don't miss a bite of the action. Tuesdays at 1 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. The Big Bite Food Safety Show. I am reporting to you live from Nationwide 90 FM, the new home of the Big Bite Food Safety Show. My name is Alison Richards, your food safety girl and host. Today we're going to be jumping into a very important topic: food safety in schools, especially in the recent light of the Public Health Department issuing a closure notice on a popular Western high school. It is pretty important that we, talk about the critical role that food safety plays in our children's health and well-being. Whether you're a parent, a school administrator, a child, or simply a guardian, it is very important to talk about the food our kids are eating. Now, today's show is for you. Stay tuned as we discuss food safety concerns. How can we prevent foodborne illnesses and ways schools, parents, and children can contribute to a safer, healthier food environment? Let's take a bite. Now, our guest for today is Samika Alexander Williamson, who is a registered nutritionist and lactation consultant, and she'll be joining us soon enough to share some insight on this very important topic. Now, the title of today's show is Safe and Sound: Navigating Food Safety in Schools. Now, remember, any questions you have, feel free to input them in the chat on our YouTube live stream, or simply send a WhatsApp to 876-280-6629. Now, what would a food safety show be without food safety news? Let's get into it. Now, our first news item for today is that ground has been broken for a $124 million cold storage facility at the Greenhouse Cluster in Content, Kirkvine, Manchester, which is expected to benefit more than 1,500 farmers and producers. Now, this initiative is being implemented by the Government of Jamaica through the Jamaica Social Investment Fund under its Rural Economic Development Initiative 2. Now, two 40-foot containers will be retrofitted to provide 135 cubic meters of cold storage capacity. And also another 40-foot container is going to be retrofitted to provide 67 cubic meters of dry storage capacity. Now, the Minister of Agriculture has reported that this is being done for all different types of produce that they have in that particular area in Manchester. Now, the facility will also include a processing area for weighing, washing, sorting, and grading produce. And a solar system is also going to be installed to meet whatever electrical supply needs this facility may have. Now, the minister has announced that the cluster, this particular project, started in 2018, where 45,000 pounds of produce came from 20 greenhouses. Farmers in the area have cultivated bell peppers, grape and cherry tomatoes, purple cabbage and broccoli. Now, the managing director of JSIF has highlighted that the agency's long-standing support for the content cluster dates back to 2010, stems from the Jamaica's government and the World Bank agreement. He has indicated that the agreement was to improve the livelihoods of people, and now that this project is well underway, it is expected to enhance the agricultural supply chain, manage surplus, and improve resilience in the sector. Now, the facility, this particular cold storage facility in Kirkvine, aims to reduce post-harvest losses, ensuring consistent food supply and to enhance Jamaica's agricultural resilience. Now, this is very important, especially coming out of Hurricane Beryl last year, where we see, the country went without electricity for quite some time, and it's very important, especially for fresh produce, that we do have cold storage facilities that can extend the shelf life of these produce. And I think this is a very good initiative by the government. And of course, we'll keep an eye on how it goes along. Our second news item for today is that there is an ongoing listeriosis outbreak linked to supplemental milkshakes that has been served in long-term care facilities, and it has sickened 38 people in 21 states, resulting in 37 hospitalizations and 12 deaths. The shakes were branded as Cisco Imperial and Lions Ready Care frozen supplemental shakes. Of the 34 people who became sick, these persons were living in a long-term care facility, such as our end-of-care home or our aged home, and some of them were actually hospitalized prior to being sick. Now, records have indicated that the facilities where these patients were admitted have been using these shakes to feed their residents. So this is a liquid shake that, that older persons tend to rely on liquid food versus hard food. And the shakes are actually supposed to provide that nutrient requirement to, bring them throughout the day. And we're finding that these shakes were actually contaminated with such a deadly disease where we've had 12 deaths. And, this is really a concern, especially for persons in the hospital. So outside of being elderly with an already immunocompromised system, we have persons who are hospitalized from other illnesses, which makes them additionally immunocompromised. So this is a pretty sad piece of food safety news, and of course I will continue to watch the development as it relates to reports on this particular outbreak. Now, our third news item for today is that Feel Good Foods Incorporated of New York in the US is recalling Feel Good Foods 3-cheese mac and cheese bites because the product may contain foreign objects, specifically metal pieces. According to the US FDA, the recall was initiated on February 5th, 2025, and is still ongoing. Now, this recall, the recalled product in particular, was distributed nationwide. So we're looking at a very huge recall where there's a lot of expenses that are associated with, trying to retrieve all of these products that went out into the marketplace. Now, our fourth news item for today is that, unfortunately, we are going to be paying more for eggs. Recently in the news, it was reported that due to Hurricane Beryl's passage, there was a shortage of eggs, so much so leading to the importation of liquefied and dehydrated eggs into the country. And of course, this move by the government was really to supplement the demand on eggs, because we do have our baking industry, we have our hospitality industry for our continental breakfast persons love scrambled eggs. So to maintain this demand, that is as a result of the baking and the hospitality industry, the government has made the move to import liquefied and dehydrated eggs. Of course, these imports are within food safety standards. There are particular specifications that these products will have to meet at the border when the different agencies with responsibility for food safety will be monitoring. Now, our fifth news item is that Steak and Shake in the US. This is pretty exciting news, considering I spoke with a few listeners yesterday about the prevalence of frying oils. Now, Steak and Shake, which is a US fast food chain, has made a significant move towards healthier food preparation. They have announced it will no longer use seed oils in its cooking process. Instead, the chain will be replacing seed oils with beef tallow. And this is a more traditional cooking fat with higher nutritional value. Now, the decision comes as a part of a growing trend among food establishments to reconsider the use of highly processed oils. Now, seed oils such as soybean and corn oil are often associated with potential health risks, including an increase in trans fatty acids and inflammation when consumed in excess. These oils are also high in omega-6 fatty acids, which, when out of balance with omega-3 fatty acids, may contribute to chronic health issues like heart disease. Now, what is beef tallow? Someone actually sent this news item to me online, and they're like so confused. Why are we using beef tallow? And why are we deserting our seed oils? Now, beef tallow is rendered fat from beef fat, so our cows. The fat in our cows is rendered, beef tallow comes from it, and it is praised for its stable properties when used in high heat cooking, such as frying, making it less prone to oxidation and the formation of harmful compounds. Now, to backtrack a little, oils that we use, like our canola or vegetable seed oils, tend to come unsaturated. Once that oil undergoes repeated frying, high temperatures, what happens is that we have the formation of very dangerous toxics such as acrylamide. It's called acrylamide and aldehydes, and these toxins have been found to cause neurotoxic effects in humans. And also, aside from cardiovascular, it can become cancerous. So now the tallow is rich in saturated fats, which have been shown to be more stable and less inflammatory than seed oils. Now, this switch from the seed oils to beef tallow is now aligning with the Steak and Shake's commitment to providing more authentic, clean, if you want to call it that, eating experience for customers. Now, I think this is a pretty good initiative. As I spoke with Honeybee yesterday, and I'm saying it's a dose that makes the poison. Fried food is something that we all love. It gives, food a different flavor, and it's a bit hard for us to give it up. But I think with healthier alternatives, like in this case using the beef tallow, that is an excellent way in, just making a better choice as it relates to food safety. Now, last news item for today is that a few weeks ago, I believe, it made headline news that Jung Supermarket in Portmore was, closed due to adverse findings from the Public Health Department. And of course, this is a popular supermarket that a lot of persons shop at, especially if you're from the Portmore area. And I think this is primarily due to its convenience. It's kind of like a one-stop shop. I've never been there, but based on the commentary I'm seeing online, it's, a favorite. Now, the Public Health, found some breaches in the public health regulations. And after, back and forthing and going to the facility and possibly not seeing, speaking from a regulator's point of view and having had that experience, closure to establishments do not happen on a first visit. So for public health to really, close an establishment, it really, it's wanting. So that happened, a public health closure notice was posted on the compound. And I was happy to see yesterday a video popped up in my timeline where a representative from Jung Supermarket, came forward and made a nice little video, indicating that they have made changes to their, their in-store guidelines and procedures as it relates to maintaining food safety. And they've been reopened by the public, given the go-ahead to reopen, post inspection from the public health. And I found that to be such a good gesture of good faith as it relates to being responsible and being accountable to our food safety or food consumers. Now, we have a video here. I'm going to share that video with you and, just watch it and tell me in the comments how you feel about this video.
At Jung Supermarket Wholesale, your safety is our top priority. We took the concerns seriously and have worked diligently to implement stronger maintenance protocol. Today, we want to show you the steps we have taken to ensure you can shop with confidence. We conducted a thorough deep cleaning, ensuring every corner of the supermarket is sanitized. We have reinforced our supplier screening and food storage procedures to prevent future issues. Our staff have undergone additional training on food safety and hygiene. We are excited to welcome you back with an even safer, cleaner, and more organized shopping experience. Thank you for your patience and trust. We can't wait to serve you again.
Nice video. So we're going to go for a quick break. Stay tuned to the Big Bite Food Safety Show. We'll be right back.
Public passenger vehicle operators and commercial carriers. Renew your road license online. It's as easy as 1-2 click. Visit the Transport Authority website at www.ta.org.jm. Choose your license type and click Apply Now. Sign in or create an account with your email address and complete the application process, uploading all relevant documents. Make payment using a debit or credit card. Once your application is approved, the Transport Authority will email you to collect your sticker. Pick up your sticker in office or utilize our courier service. Once the sticker is collected, your digital road license will be emailed to you. For more information, call the Transport Authority toll-free at 1-888-991-5687.
Revamp your space with unique living, sleek fixed and sliding shower panels, shower systems and faucets, stylish vanities, LED and non-LED mirrors, basins and kitchen sinks, closet and storage solutions, hanging aids, and more. Available in different finishes and sizes to match your style. Transform your space and visit us today at shop number 6, 30 Dunrobin Avenue, Kingston 10. Call us at 876-755-3661 or visit our website at uniquelivingja.com to shop.
Welcome back to the Big Bite Food Safety Show. I'm your host, Allison Richards, your food safety girl. Now, today's show, we just closed out our news segment with some very good local and international news, and I just want to get running into our main segment for today. Now, the title of today's show, just a reminder, is Safe and Sound, Navigating Food Safety in Schools. Now, what is it that we want to really get out of today's show? We're talking about the food safety being critical for the health and well-being of our children, and not only our children, our school admin, our educators, the staff, and how important are school meals in the everyday life of a student. We do know that most of our waking hours, growing up as children, we spent those days at school. And I want to explore throughout today the challenges that are associated with food serving or food vending in schools. Because not only do we have canteens instituted in these different institutions, but we do have vendors who, all around the perimeter of the school. And to be honest, I remember growing up, and that's really where I bought most of my food from, the vendors, because, the vendors had it. They had all the snacks that you couldn't get through your parents. You save up your money and you buy it at the vendors. So this is an important topic. I want to talk about the growing concern I just mentioned earlier in a news report, about the recent closure of a canteen at a school. And since I have published that piece of news, there are quite a few parents who have actually reached out to me, asking me how can they get their schools to get to be a bit more serious about food safety, because there are concerns in these schools that seems to not be properly ventilated by the school administration. The canteens who, are there, whether they are subcontracted or contracted by the school or owned by the school, there seems to be a disparity between what should be and what is not to be. We'll also be exploring the nutrition. There's a nutrition policy draft that has been developed by the Ministry of Education that schools should be implementing and, looking forward to integrating into their operation as it relates to food safety. I also want to look on the disparity between rural school versus urban schools. What is the difference? What are the different challenges that these different schools can experience due to their location as it relates to infrastructure, their access to water and that sort of thing. Now, why is food safety critical for children's health? The vulnerable population, that is a term that we use in the food safety industry that refers to persons who are, 1, with a weakened immune system, 2, they are immunocompromised because of either being elderly or being pregnant or simply being sick. So these are what we refer to, or these persons form a collective known as the vulnerable population. So I'll be using this term a lot throughout my episodes, and it really just means, it don't mean poor thing, it really means, you're more susceptible to becoming ill as a result of a foodborne illness. So why is it that food safety is critical for children's health? Of course, my guest later will get into this a bit more, but I just wanted to touch on the surface a bit. Children are a part of the vulnerable population. Their immune systems are not yet developed, and so it makes their bodies harder for their bodies to fight off infections. Now, proper food safety ensures that children are protected from harmful bacteria, viruses, and when I say bacteria, I mean like our Salmonella or E. coli. We have our viruses such as our norovirus, which is making about recently where a lot of persons have been diagnosed with norovirus. And we also have our toxins like our Clostridium botulinum. Now, safe food handling prevents foodborne illnesses, and promotes overall health, preventing, of course, short-term and long-term issues that can arise from contaminated food. Now, what are the consequences of kids not eating well? Foodborne illness, that's the number one consequence. As I mentioned before, there's E. coli, which is a bacteria that is found in our guts. And, once there's poor food handling practices, meaning persons are not washing their hands, they're touching raw meat and then them going back over there to touch food, or they're touching the tap in the bathroom or the knob on the door and, not washing their hands. So that's one example of a bacteria that you can become ill from. Another is Salmonella, which is often found in undercooked chicken, poultry, and eggs. And of course, that comes with a variety of symptoms such as diarrhea, fever, muscle cramps. And we have the listeria, which I just reported on that milkshake. Listeria is commonly found in unpasteurized dairy products or deli meats. When I say deli meats, I mean in the supermarket you'll find the sliced chicken ham or the sliced bologna. Those are referred to as deli meats, and they're at a higher risk of, presenting listeriosis if they're not prepared in accordance with the requirements as it relates to those type of foods. We also have our ready-to-eat foods, and listeria in particular in children causes symptoms such as fever, vomiting, and in severe cases, it causes meningitis and even death. Now, as I mentioned before, and I think I just want to really underscore this point, children's immune system, they're still developing, making them less capable of fighting off harmful pathogens as it compares to an adult like me. We've gone through our years and years of getting sick, and our immune system has built up. So imagine a child not having an immune system that is just strung out there into the bare world of pathogens. It is really hard for them to withstand the effects of these foodborne illnesses. Now, I want to share some global statistics with you as it relates to foodborne illnesses in children. Now, according to the World Health Organization, the WHO, foodborne diseases affect 1 in 10 people globally every year, and children under 5 years old are particularly vulnerable, with an estimated 125,000 deaths annually from foodborne illnesses in this age group. Now, in the Caribbean context, we do face similar challenges with foodborne illnesses, especially in areas where food safety protocols are not strictly followed. In Jamaica, the prevalence of foodborne diseases such as Salmonella, E. coli, and Listeria is rising, and I must admit that the data to support this claim is not readily available. However, it is happening. Yesterday I mentioned a common food safety myth. Culturally, as soon as we get ill and we get a little diarrhea and our stomach start hurting us and we vomit, the assumption is that we have gas. And 7 out of 10 times, I'm pretty sure, it is a foodborne illness. However, as the challenges that we face stemming from, available resources of the government, the poor food safety culture, it is very hard to track the statistics as it relates. There's a poor monitoring system, because if I go to the doctor and I say I have, whatever I'm saying, the doctor will say it's something bad, but there is really no reporting system that feeds into a bigger reporting system that can allow us to have that data to present. So from the experience I've had, I do know that foodborne illnesses are prevalent in the country, and I think our only saving grace is the fact that we overcook. I think culturally we overcook everything. The pot of chicken on the stove just bubbling out, we overcook, and I think that has been, while disadvantages to our taste and the aesthetic, it is beneficial in terms of food safety. Now, we're seeing a lot every week or every day. I get food safety news related to recalls and outbreaks and how many persons are dying. And those statistics are available in other countries on a global scene. So let's not kid ourselves that, Jamaica is insulated, because the reality is that we have a huge import bill. We import a lot of food into the country. So if the risks exist elsewhere, it can also exist here. So I'm explicitly saying that I don't think there's a cover-up in reporting cases. I'm saying once the risk exists outside of the country and we do import, the risk should be treated as highly in our country. Now, let's look at our rural versus our urban schools. I grew up in the country. I don't know how many of you grew up in the country versus, in Kingston, where in our rural schools, our canteen, looking back on where I went to school, I probably would not eat at the canteen. And I survived. And I think with the evolution, now we have an emerging issue in food safety where a lot of our bacteria and our viruses, they're mutating, they're becoming more resistant to antibiotic and stuff like that. I think maybe I probably wouldn't survive so well. And in the rural schools and the settings, we do know that there is a challenge of infrastructure, poor water supply issues. We have fewer probably canteen staff, dedicated persons to pay attention to certain things. So we're seeing all of these challenges, and of course these challenges exacerbates the efforts to ensure that, we're preparing food in accordance with the food safety guidelines that have been outlined in the government and also in the school's nutrition policy that I will be discussing later. But before we get into this, we are going to be going for a quick break. Stay tuned.
At the Jamaica Customs Agency, we care for our employees, customers, stakeholders, citizens, and our country. Customs cares. The temperature by the Jamaica Customs Agency is...
It is 30 degrees Celsius in Kingston and 30 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay.
It's electric! Celebrate World Energy Efficiency Day with Nationwide 90 FM on March 6 and 7. Join us as we explore simple ways to save energy, reduce costs, and protect our planet during the E-Zone 3 to 5 p.m. on March 6. Then nationwide this morning from 6 to 9 a.m. on March 7. We've got insights and practical advice that can and will help you make a difference. From businesses to households, everyone plays a part in building a sustainable future. When you save money on your energy bill, you also save the planet. Save money, save power, save the future. That's World Energy Efficiency Day during the E-Zone 3 to 5 p.m. on March 6th, then nationwide this morning from 6 to 9 a.m. on March 7th. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. Brought to you by the National Land Agency and the Jamaica Public Service. Tune in to Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. Stay ahead of the curve with our cutting-edge reporting and accurate breaking news coverage.
We're having an earthquake. Oh, God.
Hear it here first on Nationwide 90 FM. Tune in, turn up the volume, and listen. We bring a mix of news, entertainment, and sports to your lives.
Nationwide 90 FM's live and continuous coverage of the World Championships in Budapest, Hungary.
News and discussions week mornings.
Coming up in the news at 6 for this morning.
Entertainment in the afternoons, then news again in the evenings.
Nationwide news at this hour, fired.
Also tune in to the entertainment and sports shows in the nights and on the weekends.
It is Boy Things After Dark right here on Nationwide 90 FM.
Everything is news, from current affairs and entertainment to sports, business, and other categories.
Nationwide 90 FM. This is Beanie, give it to them. Zaga, Zen.
From every whisper to every commotion.
That's rubbish. The KSAMC cannot investigate itself.
Every news story unfolds here first at Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. Every sound is a story, and every story we share is news.
News on the go. The latest stories from Jamaica and around the world are literally a finger tap away. Keep up to date with Teen Revolution 24 hours a day online via nationwideradiojm.com. Listen live, read the latest stories, hear every soundbite. Be a part of the vibrant online debate via Facebook and Twitter. Now you can get all your favorite premium Nationwide content at your convenience. Visit the Android Play Store and download it for free today. NationwideRadioJM.com. All day, every day. Team Revolution.
Welcome back to the Big Bite Food Safety Show. I'm your host, Alison Richards, the Food Safety Girl. Before the break and before I introduce my guest for today, I touched on the challenges that rural schools are possibly facing due to, as it relates to food safety, and I wanted to just quickly cover the challenges that are present in urban schools. Now, we have the consideration of increased vending. You know, we have our more modern schools and, you know, we're living in the metropolitan area and there are more vendors, naturally. And we also have food handling in busy environments with more people. It becomes a bit more, you know, up and down busy. And there's also, because of high opportunities for employment may be present in the metropolitan area, you do have high turnover of staff, and of course that knowledge transfer that should exist between persons in the food preparation space possibly does not exist because persons will leave and such. The high turnover rate as it relates to staffing is a challenge that urban schools will face. Now, with me in the studio today is Samika Alexander Williamson, she's a registered nutritionist and lactation consultant with over a decade of experience in healthcare. She specializes in maternal and child nutrition, helping families navigate breastfeeding, infant feeding, and overall wellness. She's passionate about childhood nutrition and advocates for safe, nutritious meals in schools, ensuring children receive the best start for lifelong health. Through her consulting practice, workshops, and media engagement, she empowers parents, caregivers, institutions with practical, science-based nutrition solutions. So it's a given. She's perfect to be here today to share with us about food safety in schools. Welcome, Samika. It is great having you.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Awesome. So we're not even going to waste any time. We just really want to just jump into this discussion. And my first question for you today is just to tell me a bit about your background and how you became interested in nutrition and food safety.
Sure. So that actually came from my food and nutrition teacher in 9th grade. I mean, most of us wanted to go into the traditional roles.
A bit closer, yes.
Better? Mm-hmm. Right. Most of us wanted to go into the traditional roles, and I wanted to be a doctor, like a lot of children. Mm-hmm. And when I realized I couldn't stand the sight of blood and all of that, my food and nutrition teacher pointed me in the direction of nutrition. And that's history from there.
And it's funny enough, you know, I think all of us, we grow up with that. Once we have that little science affinity, we always want to become a doctor. Right. Look at me today, the food safety girl.
You're a doctor of food.
Well, if we want to put it that way. All right. So why is food safety particularly important when it comes to school? Share with our listeners.
Sure. So when we talk about food safety, I want us to look at it from two different aspects, because I know when you talk about food safety, you'll talk about the microbial aspect of it. Mm-hmm. But when I talk about food safety, I usually talk about the nutritional aspect in terms of what it is that the children or us as adults are consuming. Is it safe in terms of what is it going to do to our bodies? So it has different dimensions to it. Yeah. So yes, microbes are an aspect of it, which is very important, but also if you're over consuming the things that are high in fat, salts, and sugar, that also has another safety aspect in terms of how our body will respond in terms of diabetes, hypertension, or whatever it may be. So that's important to think about.
I know it's funny you said that, because I feel like a struggle for me as a food safety girl is trying to communicate that yes, there is health, you know, the whole health aspect and the nutrition aspect of food, but there's still a food safety aspect that not a lot of persons think about. You know, like for instance, you talk about cooking oil, the people automatically go to, diabetes, hypertension, but then there's a whole other issue of rancidity, of overuse of oil. So I get the struggle, and I get where and that is one of the reasons why, you know, I created this platform to really just communicate so persons can be equipped, they can be armed with that knowledge of how to decipher.
It's definitely a spectrum.
It is. So then let's talk about the national nutrition policy in our schools. There is currently a national school nutrition policy and standards drafted in August of 2023, and it's now currently being worked on, I know, by the Ministry of Education and Youth.
Right.
What do you think, or I'm not sure, have you reviewed the draft? Have you gotten a chance to look at it?
Yeah.
Do you think it's adequate? You look like you have a mouthful. Do you think it's adequate, and are there any rooms for improvement?
I actually have the draft on my phone because I was a part of one of the groups that are working on it, one of the NGOs that worked on it. So I know it personally, but it's a 50-page document. It can get very technical if you don't really know what is in there. It does have room for improvement, but I will say that with a lot of input from different groups, it has gotten better. It's quite comprehensive, and I feel like it's easy to get lost in the technical terms without actually figuring out what is important and what needs to be worked on. And we can only get so far if we start with the small steps. And I think even before whether or not the policy becomes approved, once it's taken to cabinet, we still have a far way to go in terms of implementation on the ground.
Yes, I find there's a lot of drafting and policy writing, but there's not enough implementation. Right. And a concern I had in reviewing the draft, because it's pretty comprehensive to a trained eye, to a technical person, it has everything.
Yeah.
But the concern also is that our persons who are supposed to be implementing it, are they capable of reading this document? Are they capable of, implementing? And that is just a concern and something I'd want for our school administration to think of, because if the ministry creates a policy that must be implemented, how is that trickled down to the man who don't care about food safety, don't care about nutrition? It's really just about getting something to eat. Filling your belly, and they really don't care.
And it's funny you say that, because I was at a capacity building workshop last week. It was put on by the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, and they were talking about, empowering nutrition professionals to actually work, figure out their role in the policy. And it's funny that it reached to that stage and they weren't considering nutrition professionals up until that point. I mean, they did a number of consultations with other stakeholders, the teachers, the students, the principals, so on and so forth. And one of the biggest debates that happened then and there was a matter of the school feeding program, and if nutrition professionals were a part of the establishment of the school feeding program. And a conclusion was that the school feeding program was separate from the school nutrition policy, which was kind of funny to me, because how do you have school feeding without integrating it into school nutrition? But
So it's funny you said that, because I've interacted with Nutrition Products Limited, which is the manufacturer of feeds. It feeds into the National School Feeding Program.
Right.
And I know over the years they've actually moved away from, because we grew up on the bulla and the milk and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The last time I had, I did my research and I interacted with someone from there. I don't believe they still do the milk. They don't do the milk anymore.
I don't see the milk anymore.
It's just the bulla they do. And I believe at one point they started doing some fruit juices.
Yeah, I think
that
so.
didn't seem sustainable. They stopped. And I think now what they do, they distribute water.
Okay.
I do
in the
believe,
bags?
I think so, or a bottle. I don't remember, and I think they'd reformulated the bulla. So it's, less sugar.
But I keep hearing that it don't taste so good. So that's another aspect of it.
It's learned behavior. We're
Most
so accustomed to the sweetness. So now it's... Because I remember that was like a hot commodity back in the day.
Of course, it wasn't for nutrition. It was for... It tastes good when
First
the bulla
all,
come.
Kids who never did need the bulla used to buy the bulla.
Exactly.
So it was a thing. And they have moved away from that. So I guess... It's unfortunate that, it's operating in a silo, because that should really be an integrated. And the policy does make mention.
Yes, it does make mention of the school feeding program.
So,
and it's funny that you say that, because I feel like, especially as Jamaicans, I don't think it's only Jamaican. I think it's a Caribbean thing, and I think it came from slavery days. And I think a lot of the habits that we have now actually come from slavery days. You're never concerned about it being nutritious. You just want to make sure your belly full, because you need to do what you have to do. Yeah. And I feel we have a far way to go in recognizing that a belly full can only do us to a point, because those are the same children that are falling asleep in class because they had a sugar rush. They're not concentrating. They can't do their work well because the food isn't sustainable for what they need to do.
That's so true. Before you came on, I started talking about, the rural versus urban school setting. Share us, country or town?
Town.
Okay. So perfect. So you can give that perspective on what it was like, back in primary school, high school days.
Sure.
Would you say there's a different food safety challenge based on what I've shared, growing up in school? And how do you think we can address these disparities that I mentioned earlier?
So first of all, the school that I went to, the primary school that I went to was right beside a gully.
Oh, geez.
And that's where the vendors set up. So the gully was their backdrop. Clearly we didn't, your kids, whatever. And back then we didn't have that big of a deal about hand washing. I think COVID came and really opened our eyes to hand washing. And then when COVID seemed to not be there anymore, we noticed everybody was getting sick because we weren't wearing masks and we weren't washing our hands as frequently. And the vendors were they had a big pot of soup, them selling you the soup, the candy. We had the June plum, you put the salt in the bag and you squeeze it up and all of the nice other things that are in the bag with the juice. Yes. So there was no sort of hygiene practices during that time. Going to high school now, everything was in the canteen.
All right, I'm going to stop here for a short minute. We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned to the Big Bite Food Safety Show.
The national budget is everybody's business because it impacts every Jamaican. The time brought to you by the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service is
1:45 p.m.
Trust, integrity, compliance. These are the pillars of a strong business. And at Dodge & Global, our audit services ensure your financial statements are accurate and reliable. Stay compliant and gain investors' confidence with our expert auditors. Call us today at 876-929-3670 or 876-926-5210. Email us at info@dodgen.global. Visit us at dodgen.global. Dodgen Global, smarter and more effective decisions.
Hey there, commuters, big news! Your JUTC SmartFare cards are here! It's time to swap out those old Smarter cards and step into the future of easy, efficient travel. We know transitions take time, but let's get started. Here's how. Grab your Smarter card and your ID. Bring it to any JUTC ticket office. We will then switch you to a SmartFare card. Top up and voila! Your brand new SmartFare card is ready to roll. No stress, your balance moves with you to your sleek, upgraded SmartFare card. So, out with the old, in with the new. Right with SmartFare.
Welcome back to the Big Bite Food Safety Show. I'm your host, Allison, your food safety girl. Now, today's episode is all about food safety in schools, safe and sound navigating food safety in schools. I wanted to remind you of the WhatsApp line. Do not be afraid to ask any questions. No question is too dumb, too silly. Ask them. I want them and I want to answer them questions for you. The WhatsApp number is 876-280-6629. 876-280-6629. In studio with me today is Semika Alexander Williamson, a registered nutritionist. And just before the break, we were having a discussion about her experience growing up in a urban school setting as it relates to food safety. We're talking about the risks associated. As kids, we really don't care nothing about food safety. During the break, I wanted to share with her that while she was talking, I remember back in the day when we buy bag juice and it tough bag juice, we literally have it on the ground and stamp like I look back and I'm like, boy, we were really just out to get ourselves. So we know kids, they don't know, so they're not gonna practice it. And in continuing the discussion, I wanted to find out from Semika what tips does she have for parents, because in the nutrition policy that we're referring to, an exemption from the same policy is food that parents actually give their kids to take to school. So the Ministry of Education has no ambit to tell you as a parent how to prepare your food, but we want to equip you with this information as a parent. How is it that you can ensure food safety for your child going out to school? So share with us a bit on that, Samiko.
So, you had said it before that we spend majority of the time, the children spend majority of the time at the school. So they learn nutrition from school. Albeit, they're learning it in the classroom, but really is that demonstrated at the school? What is the example, right?
Yeah.
And I feel as if what our children go out there with and what their decisions are in terms of what they choose starts in the home. And I think a lot of us start out by wanting to feed our children well. We want to ensure that they have a healthy, quote unquote, healthy diet. But then I feel after a while it gets so frustrating. And if you can imagine, if you can't even think about what you must eat on a daily basis, having to think for somebody else what to feed them is another task.
Especially if you have more than one.
Especially if you have more than one. It's a task and a half. And I always say, when you go in the supermarket, you can know when somebody has a child. Because when you look in the trolley, you see the whole heap of snacks. Because it's easy to just say here. But I think we want to look at the fact that look at what is available. I mean, we live in Jamaica and we have so many seasons and food is available all year round.
Yes.
Think about what is available. I know convenience is always something that we look out for, but think about the long run, because they always say, kids should be kids, let them have what they want, nothing never do me, but we are the same ones that are living with the hypertension, the diabetes, the high cholesterol right now. So let us just look at the food groups. We have our food groups. We have whole heap of yam, banana, pumpkin. Let's eat that. We have our meats. We have different types of meats, chicken, beef, fish, whatever it is. We have our peas and beans. So let's choose from the different variety of the food group. Let's color our plates. Let it look like the rainbow, and not the rainbow based on artificial coloring and
food dyes and all those things.
That's not what we're looking at. We're looking at the natural foods. I remember this morning making my plates. I had my beetroot and my pumpkin. It was pretty, and there was no artificial dyes in there. And I think if we have our children engaged in the preparation of the food, that makes them more open to wanting to eat it. And we can do so much, just have a little backyard garden. And even if you don't have the space in terms of ground, we can do containers. But I think if we start from home, have the children participate, it goes a far way.
And I think I would just wanted to add to this point you've made. I know there's an initiative now and a drive, grow your own food, food safety begins with you. However, it is the kids that we need to target because it's a learned behavior.
Definitely.
You cannot tell a tough-head man who don't know about farming to go and farm. It needs to start with the kids.
With the children.
When they have that habit, they've learned it, they're able to better apply it.
Yes.
And I think that is a very good idea.
Yeah.
My other question to you is some tips for the kids, because I never used to listen to my parents when I was growing up. So hopefully there's a child or a high schooler listening to us right now. And they'll take it from you, the expert. What are some tips for them, going out, how to better? And hopefully my daughter is listening to because she don't listen to me, but hopefully she listen to you, the expert. So share with them some tips.
A child will lead the way, I find that my son will come ever so happy. That's not healthy, right, mommy? Is that healthy? And I feel that if we are instilling good values in them, they can take us a far away. They're doing little experiments at school, like, remember they're planting peas and stuff like that. They can start a little garden with that, And I'm not saying that the sweet stuff are they're the worst, but I'm not saying that you can't have any at all, but everything in moderation. Just let them know that, you can have it, but it's not so good. It can affect your teeth. It can affect your health. Think about what happens when you drink the sweet stuff. You want to sleep right away. Kind of just let them be aware of what is happening with you. Just saying don't, and do, as opposed to opening their mind as to why. You realize that they ask a lot of whys. Let's answer their questions rather than shut them up. I think we're in a different age. These children are not like we were.
Yes.
And they want to know why. So I think if we let them know why more, then they can act accordingly.
Okay. And I think it would be remiss of me not to mention, you mentioned you worked with an NGO in the creation or the creation of, or participation rather, in revising the nutrition policy.
Right.
I also wanted to highlight the work of UNICEF, who has created the Fix My Food initiative. Have you
Yes,
heard? Yes.
yes.
So during my research, I came across that there's this Fix My Food initiative that aims to bring together young people to mobilize support and action for a better food environment. And this is this is what I love. And I also want to add that the Bureau of Standards Quality Institute has actually implemented a food safety in schools ambassador program.
Oh, nice.
Where they had their pinning ceremony a few months ago where they actually invited students in, pinned them. And I think this is such a good initiative supporting the point I made earlier about trying to impact and change the way our kids view food safety. So I think these are two important initiatives. Looking forward to hearing about the others as it relates to targeting our kids. Hopefully the Food Safety Girl can start a little school tour and bring on people like Samika to travel with me. So that is a dream I have, to just start imparting or furthering the journey of, encouraging students or kids about the importance of food safety.
Yeah.
I also wanted to batten down on how parents can advocate for better food safety practices in school. Demand it.
Yes.
Demand regular inspections. Hold the school accountable. The school is responsible for your child for so many hours out of the day, including feeding them. There has to be that responsibility and that expectation that is extended to the school to be like, yes, you're keeping them safe physically, but are you keeping them safe in health-wise? So that is one way in which parents can advocate for their kids being exposed to better food safety practices. Also, encourage your kids. I mean, the internet is there.
Yeah.
Try to find more integrative ways. You mentioned earlier, including them in preparing meals.
Right.
Teaching them about proper hand washing, proper food hygiene, and making safer food choices. Now, my last question for you today, Sanika, is just for you to, what is a takeaway? Just give me a takeaway and a message that when we enter the show, persons will walk away feeling empowered as it relates to food safety in school. What's the message for the listeners and viewers?
It's not one individual, it's not the parents only, the teachers only, the students only. It's a collaborative effort. Same in terms of like the country itself. It's not just the Ministry of Education, it's also the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Finance. It's everybody. We can't be working in silos and expect that what I'm doing over here in my corner is going to solve the bigger picture. We need to have an integrative approach, and everybody needs to work together, because teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Okay, you said it. Food safety is everybody's business. No one person. It's an integrated process. Now, a fun fact I want to leave with you today is that dropping food on the floor just for 5 seconds does not mean it's still safe. Don't drop your food. Don't eat it after it's falling. Thank you, Samika, for joining me in studio today. Thank you for tuning in to the Big Bite Food Safety Show, your go-to source for all things food safety. I hope today's episode was insightful. Stay tuned with me on my social media accounts, Facebook, TikTok, you name it, the Food Safety Girl. Have a great afternoon. Signing out.
Big news! The Big Bite Food Safety